Hello, everybody. Welcome to another Raising a Warrior Meets interview. And we are always super excited when we welcome our guests. And today is definitely no exception. We have the amazing Jane Jennison with us today. And you can see from her very impressive background there that she is the founder of Adopting Positivity. Jane has a master's degree in applied positive psychology. She uses person-centered art therapy skills and is very, very passionate about challenging a lot of emotional difficulties in both adults and children, a huge advocate for children's mental health. She uses a very multidisciplinary approach, so lots of different approaches to helping people in the way that's going to support them the best. Over 10 years experience working in therapeutic environments with both adults and children. We are super excited to have Jane with us today. She's also written an amazing blog which I had a good read of the other day. It's called Mental Health Awareness for Our Children, so we'll definitely be supplying you with a link to that. It's well worth a read. Very good blog, Jane. Now, you may or may well not know that Raising a Warrior are running a massive feature on kinesthetic learning in children for the rest of the year. So Jane has very kindly offered to sort of steer her interview with us towards issues with kinesthetic learning, and we're going to be focusing our questions a lot on learning through movement. So I think I've hopefully not missed anything out, Jane, but lovely to have you here. Thank you so much for coming and spending this time with us. And Naomi is going to kick off the interview with question 1.
Okay, how would being in a different learning environment from an early age benefit children with kinesthetic learning style?
Okay, this one was really hard for me to answer, so I've tried to narrow it down, but I have got 4 areas to consider. So the first thing is that kinesthetic learning is an active learning style, and active learning engages students in discussions, problem solving, case studies and role play. Active learning helps promote higher order thinking skills such as the application of knowledge, analysis, synthesis. It engages students on a deep rather than superficial learning and facilitates students to be able to apply and transfer their knowledge much better than passive learning, or what we would know as chalk and talk.
Yeah.
So that's the first area. The second area is that it's a person-centered approach, and we see this in Forest School, and I will be using Forest School as examples throughout this conversation. So in Forest School, it's very person-centered, and the principles are that all participants, and that's adults and children, are unique, equal and valuable. They're all competent to explore and discover. They're all entitled to experience appropriate risk-taking and challenges. They're all entitled to choose and initiate and drive their own learning and development. I think that's really key. And they're entitled to experience regular success. And this helps build positive relationships with themselves and with other people. So that's the second point. The third one is that kinesthetic learning is a great way to build relationships between adults and students. It helps build secure attachments. It helps recover from developmental trauma, and it helps build resilience. And the fourth thing is that movement really helps students to focus on tasks. So it turns on our brain and helps take control of our behaviour. And we know that exercise stimulates the prefrontal cortex, and that helps us with focus, planning, concentration and organisation.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Really good. I love that.
My brain's just like, wow, okay.
I was really captured then, really listening. That's so
brilliant. Thank you.
I love it. Ooh, good one. Okay. All right. Question 2. In your opinion, what are the top 3 benefits of learning through action and movement?
Well, I believe that it's our natural learning state that we learn by doing, and that we've learned to be reader-writer learners, because that's the predominant teaching style in schools and even in colleges and universities as well. Yeah. So that's the first main benefit, is that I think it's our natural learning style. Being physically active increases blood flow in the body, it stimulates our brain function, and by incorporating these little stretch breaks into the day, students can help remain longer in their optimal learning state. Movement helps children to be more successful in their learning and behaviour. It sharpens their understanding of difficult concepts. It increases retention of learned information and sets them on a path of lifelong learning and well-being. That's all point number 1.
Love it.
Point 2 is that repetitive physical movement, and that can be trampolining, walking or running or playing catch, that helps regulate our body and reduces the stress markers and the stress hormones in our body.
Yeah.
And this helps us build secure relationships, increases resilience, and helps us recover from trauma. It's a fantastic book called The Body Keeps the Score, which explores this in great depth and helps identify how you can build those things into recovery from developmental trauma.
Right.
And the third thing is that being active helps build relationships, and this is a key thing in Forest School, but it's also present in activities such as the Daily Mile, which a lot of schools are incorporating into the start of their day now, where children just walk, run or whatever they want to do for 15 minutes at the beginning of each school day.
Yeah, amazing. So you feel that kinesthetic learning is also advantageous to visual learners and auditory learners. It's just that the visual learners and the auditory learners their brains happen to be wired a little bit better for the more, like you say, the more traditional style of learning in schools now. So kinesthetic learning can benefit all children, regardless of their learning style.
Yes, and because, you know, if you build in things like walking and running and stretch breaks and things like that, it helps all learning styles to stay on task for longer and helps absorb that knowledge that they're trying to take in.
Yeah, amazing, incredible. Naomi.
Yes. Can I go to your school? That would be awesome.
I haven't set it up yet, but there is going to be a Jennison Memorial School of Mud Therapy. Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, is there? Oh, okay. Well, just ping through the email when that was open, because I'm very good at getting my hands dirty with mud. So, question 3. What got you interested in the concept of forest schools?
Okay, I've really had to hone this one down.
This was going to be a long one.
I've tried to be as succinct as possible. So, a teacher at my children's primary school used to run an environment club, and my son attended that, and she was also my daughter's form teacher, and she saw our children in a way that the other school staff didn't. So our children are adopted, so it's safe to say that they're trauma experienced. They're also both dyslexic and dyspraxic, so they have additional needs. So this teacher, Mrs. R, we'll call her, retrained as a forest school practitioner, and she was asking for volunteers. So I liked her. So this is where we see the healing value of relationships. Mm-hmm. So I liked her. So I volunteered. Now, we'd moved away from our hometown because of safeguarding concerns about our children, and so I was quite isolated. And I saw this as a really good opportunity to spend time with Mrs. R and with like-minded individuals. So that was my first reason. But Forest School was introduced by the primary school as an intervention with students with additional needs, and my daughter was one of these. It had a really high adult-student ratio. There was about 8 adults to 12 students, so that's really, really important in terms of the therapeutic value of Forest School. The students were given opportunity for free play, including using knives, handsaws, drills, hammers, cooking snacks over a fire pit. They made rope swings, they made dens, they created artwork from found items, they crushed berries to make ink. So it was really
amazing,
so different from the classroom environment, which had all of us pulling our hair out, our children and ourselves.
Yeah.
So my initial interest was in supporting my daughter and Forest School as an intervention for students with additional needs, but it's grown from that. So I found all aspects of Forest Schools were beneficial to me as an adult facilitator, as well as seeing how hugely beneficial they were to the students. They increased in confidence, they built good friendships with their peers, they became much more physically confident and more secure in their proprioceptive sense of self in space, and so on. And for me, I really valued being able to volunteer. I've always done voluntary work, and so being able to facilitate students in their achieving their self-directed targets, spending time outdoors, quiet reflective time, shared experiences, eating together, it was all just fantastic, and my interest just kind of snowballed from there.
Yeah, so you saw your daughter and your son really start to progress and develop once they were in that learning environment.
Absolutely. My son didn't go to Forest School. He'd left the school by the time they'd started it as an intervention. but a lot of the principles of Forest School were embedded in what Mrs. Zara had done with the Environment Club.
Okay.
So I saw how beneficial that was. So then when she started the Forest School, I could see, you know, my daughter particularly, her proprioceptive sense of self, so her sense of where she is physically in time and space is a bit rubbish. And it really came on when she was at Forest School. So, you know, a lot of what I talked about earlier about repetitive movements, swinging, running, trampolining, every session she built a rope swing, every session. So, and it was great, you know, particularly for children who've got additional educational needs where they fail all the time in every classroom environment. They fail. But because in Forest School they're choosing the tasks that they want to engage in, and it's facilitated by the adults. It's not set by the adults, but we help them. We sort of say, well, I wonder if you held the hammer at the bottom rather than at the top, you'd get more of a swing, and that might help hammer that nail in. So you're encouraging them in their own learning journey, and they just succeed. Whatever task they've set, they exceed. We had a little boy who was mute, and he spoke. The only time he spoke was in the Forest School sessions. You know, it was absolutely fantastic seeing these children be able to achieve in an environment where the previous school environment was just failure upon failure.
It's often seen. Sorry, Naomi, go on.
No, I was just going to say, it's nice because as well for the kids, they can self-regulate. They know they need to move. They know they need to do something to get rid of this ant. I call it ants. They feel like ants are crawling over their body. And they're not allowed to stop fidgeting, stop daydreaming, sit still. And they're just like, and you can see them, Coke bottle shaking and shaking. And you're just like, this is like going to either explode at school or at home. But they know what they need to do, but it's that you can't. So then that kind of chips away, like you said, their self-esteem. And it's, whereas actually what they need to do is they need to hit primary school and then go and work in a movement setting like a mechanics or out in the garden or anywhere where they're doing something.
And it's really easy to incorporate those little activities in the classroom environment. So you know, if you've got kids that fidget, ask them to sharpen all the pencils. You know, ask them to put all of the blue tack back into a ball. Ask them to set the chairs out for assembly. Give them something to do with that kinesthetic energy that they've got, and then they'll be self-regulated and they'll be able to learn more.
Because it's often misunderstood, isn't it, as an inability to learn, which is complete rubbish. It's sort of taken as a measure of a child's intelligence, whereas if the the teaching style is shifted, then now that child can learn. So that misunderstanding that they had a complete inability to learn is just rubbish. You know, if you switch the teaching style around, boom, there we go, there's a child who's learning.
And we see fidgeting as a sign of a child who's disengaged, when actually fidgeting is their way of trying to engage. And we wouldn't stop adults doing this. I mean, I'm a great fidgeter. You know, you can see that I've got earrings. I twiddle with them all the time. I fiddle with that. I've got a spinning ring that has spun so much that I've broken the spinning mechanism. You know, we as adults are allowed to fidget, and nobody says, you know, stop doing that. And we find appropriate ways to fidget. So, you know, I go to church on a Sunday. It's really hard to fidget in church. So I make notes, and all I'm doing is my hand is fidgeting. That's all I'm doing, is allowing my hand to fidget by taking notes. And the minister goes, oh, look at Jane, isn't she concentrating? No, I'm just... By writing it down, it allows me to concentrate. I don't ever reread what I've written. And there's all flowers all over the margins, and, you know, but you know, we as adults can do that, and yet we prevent our children from doing it. And when you look at a child who fidgets and go, do you know what, they are trying their absolute best to engage with what we're doing, then you've flipped the whole way that you perceive that child. Instead of going, oh, why can't he just sit still? So say, he is fidgeting, he's trying so hard to concentrate on what I'm saying, and fidgeting is helping him do that. And we've completely then reframed how we see that student.
And not to worry that, because there are a lot of comments I hear, but they're going to distract the whole class. No, they're not, because actually you'll find that quite a lot of the class members want to do the same, so they're just mimicking it. And then they're like, oh God, thank God I can move because that person's moving. And it's not, you're not losing control over the situation or the class or the children. It's actually helping you to function better as a class by allowing the ones that need to fidget.
Yeah, definitely.
Also, why
you know, there are some sort of trends. So, you know, there was a trend for fidget spinners, and for particularly like a little square one that clicked and made lots of noises. Now, I can understand if you're an auditory learner, that would be distracting. But there are ways that you can go, okay, so, you know, our student needs to fidget with something in his hand. So you give them something else, something that is not loud for them to fidget with. So that I bought my children, I wear bracelets as well, and I bought my children one that has got a zip, and you just zip it up and unzip it, zip it up and unzip it on your wrist. It's plastic, so it doesn't make any noise, and you've given them that opportunity to fidget, and it's not detracting from the other students, and it's helping them to concentrate.
I normally just stick them on wobble boards as well.
Absolutely, wobble boards are fantastic, and there's a teacher that has developed like an under desk cycle pedals.
Wow, amazing. Oh, it's coming. Awareness is coming, isn't it? And then after awareness, then the changes start to get made. All right, final question.
Okay.
How can we take the ethos and principles of forest schools and apply them to everyday life with children?
Oh, this was a really hard one to summarise as well. I'm going to go through what the principles of forest school is for any of your viewers who don't know about forest school and don't understand what I'm whiffling on about. So forest school, there are 6 principles. Forest school, the first one is a long-term process of regular sessions rather than one-off or infrequent visits. So there's a cycle of planning, observation and adaptation and review that links into each session. Generally, a forest school intervention will last for a calendar year. So, you know, we're talking really long-term. You get really in-depth relationship building and marvellousness happening. So the second principle of forest school is that it takes place in a woodland or natural environment, and that will support the development of a lifelong relationship between the learner and the natural world. Forest school also uses a range of learner-centered processes to create a community for being, development and learning. Fourth principle is that forest school aims to promote the holistic development of all involved, so that's adults and students, fostering resilient, confident, independent and creative learners. Forest school offers learners, this is number 5, the opportunity to take supported risks appropriate to the environment and to themselves. So that's why you see drilling, hammers and fire pits. And the 6th principle is that forest school is run by qualified forest school practitioners who continuously maintain and develop their own professional practice. So there's a built-in reflective element for the practitioners for every forest school session as well. So how can we apply these at home? So my first thing, and it doesn't really apply to forest school, but I'm going to say it anyway, is routine. So one of the things with forest school is that it's done every week for a year. So there is that sense of routine, and routine is really important for children because routine keeps children safe. They know what the boundaries, expectations and parameters are if there's a good routine. So the second point is that mud is good for us. Playing outside in an environment that mimics the forest floor instead of gravel builds our children's immune system because it exposes them to a greater variety of skin and gut bacteria. So this can help reduce autoimmune disorders like asthma and certain allergies. Encouraging children to play outside can help them, therefore, to be healthy from the inside out. So think about the daily mile. This is something that lots of schools are introducing. You know, can we and the children in our care be outside for 15 minutes each day, walking or running? So we can do that at home quite easily, just go for a walk. My 4th point is, I love this phrase. I've invented this. I take credit for it. Be a foul weather friend. So we all have fair weather friends, and I'm saying be a friend to foul weather. Don't wait for good weather to go outside. Waterproof footwear, a blanket and a change of clothes can make most weather bearable. So, you know,
I like it.
Get outside regardless of the weather. 5th point, and this really ties in with the person-centered approach of forest school, is to hold our children in unconditional positive regard. So if we trust that the children in our care are doing their best, then we can see their problems as something we can help them to navigate rather than seeing it as naughty behaviour. And this goes back to the fidgeting conversation we had earlier on, doesn't it? So the other thing is don't expect quick fixes. So Forest School is an intervention that runs for a calendar year. Our investment in our children is also a long-haul relationship. That's point number 6. Number 7, spend time together practicing awe. I'm a big fan of awe. So sharing in quiet times. Forest School has a period of quiet time in every session. Reflect on how we're feeling. It gives our children acceptance of their own emotional state and language to help express and navigate it. And awe is brilliant. You know, you can find awe anywhere, any environment. Just, you know, turning a tap on. I think that's amazing that water comes out of a tap. Looking up at the sky, you know, there's so many opportunities for us to experience awe. So that's point number 7. Point number 8, so Forest School is a holistic approach, and so could our parenting or caring style be. The children in our care cannot flourish if they're hungry or scared. So let's look at the whole child and not just the behaviour we want to see. A child can't stay regulated or on task if they're not resourced as a whole person. And finally, Forest School practitioners, and I've mentioned this before, they're committed to continuous reflection and development. So we need, as parents and carers, to resource ourselves so that we can face all the unique challenges that being a parent or carer brings us. So we need to be able to continuously acquire the skills we need to help us to better care for the children. And this also shows them the benefit of continual learning and development. And after all, we know that children do what you do, not what you say.
Yes, they do.
Yeah.
Wow.
Wonderful.
Amazing. I was absolutely hooked on this interview. Just taking it all in, and delivered so well, Jane. Really well. Yeah.
Thank you.
Wow. Just anything you want to add, Naomi, before we wrap this
No,
up?
I think I've just time to digest, but no, I think it's refreshing to hear the benefits of kinesthetic learning, but also making it so it's not this big thing. Oh, I've got to set something up for kinesthetic learners. Actually, they're the easiest ones because you just push them out the door and they'll go and play and find their own learning. And they don't want the material stuff. They actually seek the natural stuff, which is easier to get your hands on. So it's just really lovely to kind of start to bridge those gaps a bit and say, actually, to deliver information for this learning style, it's not that huge leap that sometimes I think it can appear for some people.
And I think also, you know, going back to one of the points that you made earlier, this is something that we can put into place in the classroom environment for our children who are kinesthetic learners, but actually it lifts all of our children, not just the kinesthetic learners. This is something that all of the children in our care will benefit from.
Yeah, absolutely.
Amazing. Jane, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us today. It's been
Thank you.
It's been incredible, and I think anybody who watches this interview will gain a considerable amount of knowledge and reassurance as well if any parents or carers of kinesthetic learners are watching. So a massive thank you from us. We will definitely be putting this all over social media for everybody to watch. So huge thank you, and hopefully we will be speaking to you again at some point in the future. That would be amazing. We're always running features and we would gladly welcome you back anytime. So big thank you. Thanks for watching, everybody, and we will definitely be speaking to you soon. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.